Stepping into a leadership role is a unique challenge, whether you chose to lead or were chosen to lead. Today we're going to explore 6 strategies you can use to fill the shoes and build a more effective team. First off, establish customer-focused vision. Most people's first step is to look internally at where they want their team to be in 3 years, 5 years, and so on. What milestones do you want to hit? What sort of internal environment do you want to have? While these are good areas of focus, you should also look at what you want your customers to experience. Customers can take many forms, whether they're a traditional paying customer or another team that you provide a support function to. Think of an HR department working to provide a safe work environment, or an analysis team providing information to key decision makers. If you can identify how you want your team to be perceived and the experience you want to provide, you can use our next strategy to clearly communicate your vision to your team. That next strategy is to foster two-way communication. As a leader, your most important tool is feedback, both from your customers and from your team. Too often, I see leaders who clearly and concisely communicate their vision and instructions, usually via a faceless directive in an email, but they don't have that line of communication open. Nobody wants to work under a leader who speaks without listening, and no leader can lead effectively without knowing what's happening on the front lines. It's important to have real dialogues with people at each level of your operation, as well as with your customers where possible, so they know you care about their lives and their work. Through these dialogues, you can understand how your vision relates to each individual and communicate it more effectively than if you relied on a blast email to your entire organization. Once you've used your discussions to generate feedback, it's time to move on to the next strategy. Leverage feedback. One of the most demoralizing situations for a team member is providing feedback and seeing nothing come of it. As a leader, when you receive valid feedback that identifies a friction point or a process that could be streamlined, it's critical that you take action. "That's how we've always done it" is one of the most deadly phrases for any organization, and I'd argue that if you ever hear or think that, you're obligated to make some sort of change just to avoid that mindset. As a leader, you need to be able to take a step back and realize you don't always know what's best. The people in the trenches doing the job are keenly aware of what could make their lives better, and it's your job to hear them and help them whenever possible. Next up, lead by example. I'm going to be straight up with you, I hate the buzz phrase lead by example. I once wrote an interview packet for a leadership position I was looking to fill from within my organization, and one of the questions was, tell me how you prefer to operate as a leader and how you prefer your leaders to operate. Without fail, all 12 applicants answered, I like to lead by example, in those exact words, right off the bat. It felt like they'd copied off of each other's tests. The follow-up question was, give me an example of you leading by example in your position now, and only 3 of them were able to give me a good answer. The point is, leading by example is a good concept that's applied incorrectly. People interpret it as, I'll be well-groomed and collected, never show extreme emotion, project confidence, and be on time no matter what. But leading by example is about holding yourself to the same or even stricter standards than your team, regardless of seniority. If you've implemented a mandatory training, you better be at that training. If you're asking your team to work overtime, you better be there with them. Leading by example is about being in the trenches, not standing over them. Sure, as a leader, you need to poke your head out to see where your team needs to go, but the minute you climb out of that trench is the minute your team starts to resent you. Treat your team like your customers. If your team hates their lives and their job, your customers are going to feel it in their service. You need to be evaluating what you provide for your team and what sort of experience they're having, as much or more than you evaluate the same for your customers. Programs to enhance your team's lives both in and out of work go further for your customer experience than implementing a reward system for the customer. In an ideal world, you'll have programs and incentives for both your team and for your customers, but if you focus on your team first, trust me, your customers will appreciate that, even if they don't know it. If you don't trust me, trust QuickTrip, a Fortune 500 company with a heavy focus on employee programs that ranks near the top of every customer and employee satisfaction survey they take part in. Speaking of surveys, don't get caught up in the numbers. Believe it or not, a lot of people have difficulty conceptualizing revenue data, profits, and conversion rates, go figure. What people usually don't have trouble conceptualizing is emotional impact. When trying to communicate your team's successes, focus on the value that they've provided to their customers and to the team. Consider sharing a customer's story or review, or letting an employee know that one of their coworkers told you that they've been performing above and beyond expectations. Rather than communicating that quarterly sales are up 6% since one of your teammates implemented a new process, let them know that sales are up and as a result, you're going to be able to provide a bonus to the entire team, or that you've been able to positively impact even more lives as sales increased. To sum it all up, establish a vision for your team and your customers. Communicate with your team, not to them. Seek out and implement feedback. Lead by example. Don't just talk about leading by example. Treat your team like your customers and provide for them. Don't present numbers, present emotions and impacts. If this video has provided value for you and your team, make sure to like the video and leave me a comment. If you're committed to improving yourself and your teams, go ahead and subscribe for more No Bull leadership.